ain't got no boundaries to hold me back. Boundaries is what I lack. Howdy, folks, and welcome to the Conflation Station. Hop on board the next train out, and let's take a ride to a place where anything's possible.
Hello and welcome to the Conflation Station. My name is Hugo Yorway and I'll be your tour guide for today's podcast, including political commentary, conspiracy theories, and some cool music from the Electric Love Orchestra. At the Conflation Station, our team of creative writers and novice journalists combine elements of irony, satire, and pure absurdity to create insightful political commentary and homespun conflated conspiracy theories taken from today's news headlines. In our first segment of the show, known as the 14th Circuit, or what I like to call the Court of Public Opinion, renowned raconteur the Reverend Rusty Stubblefield shares his unfiltered and unhinged views about America's constitutional crisis. His topic this week is voting rights. Rusty, the microphone is all yours.
Well, thank you, Hugo. Before I begin my weekly sermon, I thought it would be appropriate to share a little history with y'all. As you probably know by now, I'm a big history buff because, as they say, history keeps on repeating itself. Some folks say that each time it does, the price ticket goes up. Like history, I also repeat myself sometimes, especially when I'm digressing. In other times, after what I eat, especially pepperoni pizza, repeats on me too. Anyway, here we go. The train's about to leave the Conflation Station. Now, way back in the year of our Lord, 1787, when them wig-wearing founding fathers was on the precipice of reaching agreement about what they was going to put in that there Constitution, you know, the one I've been talking about every week, the fathers would hold endless meetings debating about how their newly formed government was going to operate. Way back then, the founding fathers, who was basically rich folks, had plenty of time to think up stuff without having their minds cluttered with all the bullshit that goes on today. They didn't have no apps on their cell phones to order lunch on DoorDash or Uber Eats if they had a hankering for sushi for lunch. Since the fathers was setting up a republic where elections was going to take place to determine who would represent the people in each of them their newly formed entities called states, and the people was going to vote on them their representatives, one fundamental question the fathers had to answer was, who the hell is going to get to vote on those representatives? Still with me? Well, it didn't take any more than a New York City minute to figure out that it was going to be folks just like themselves who was going to get to vote. You know, white guys with money and property. They sure as hell wasn't thinking about letting women folk vote. They was too busy being wives and mothers to their children. They wasn't thinking about giving the natives a chance to vote. Heck, they was heathens in the eyes of the founding fathers. And even though they was here way before the fathers came ashore with all their grievances and diseases, the natives didn't have the smarts to make important decisions about who was running the show. Heck, they might even start electing some of their own kind to run the show. Last but not least was those persnickety slaves the fathers themselves brought to America from Africa. At first, the fathers dismissed the ideas of slaves getting to vote faster than a speeding musket ball. It just didn't make sense to let slaves vote in elections. Heck, they was property, not people. But here's the thing. At the same time the fathers was deciding who gets to vote in elections, they was also deciding how many representatives each one of them their newly formed states would have in that there House of Representatives they invented, what the fathers called a government by the people, for the people. Some of those plantation-owning Southern gentlemen type cotton farmers who was part of that their constitutional convention figured out it would suit their purposes right fine that if slaves wouldn't be allowed to vote in elections, there was nothing stopping the fathers from counting them as people when trying to stack the deck in their favor in that there House of Representatives. Well, the founding fathers in them their northern states, where growing cotton was tougher than growing hair on John Adams' bald head, they did not take kindly to that suggestion. So the fathers from the north and the founding fathers from the south was off to the races debating about counting heads for some time. Finally, the founders from the north and the founders from the south reached a compromise. They agreed that for the purpose of determining how many seats a state would have in the House of Representatives, one slave would be counted as 3/5 of your plain, average, everyday white man. Imagine that. A black man only being worth 60% of a white man. Now, if that ain't one way to start off a new country on the wrong foot. But they was the fathers, and what they said goes. And what they did was the way it was in the great US of A until after the Civil War 20 years later. Ah, the sheer genius and foresight those founding fathers had. Now let's fast forward to the present. Today in the US of A, we have a slightly different problem. Today, our legislators are in a heck of a mess trying to figure out what to do with migrants. You know, those illegals? Now, here's my thinking. What if the members of our Congress was to take the same approach with migrants today as the founding fathers took with slaves way back when? Heck, today migrants are already being treated like slaves, or in some cases, like at that there alligator Alcatraz, even worse. Let's say for the purpose of determining the number of seats a state has in the House of Representatives, each illegal immigrant would be counted as 3/5 of a regular birthright or naturalized citizen. Shit, those congressmen and women would be smashing windows, breaking down doors, and scaling the walls of the Capitol and the border wall to get as many illegal immigrants into these states as possible, just so they could have more Republican votes on that there House floor. Sanctuary cities would be springing up everywhere, and the borders would be wide open just to push up the vote count. Now, you'd need a constitutional amendment to make that shit happen, and since we've already discussed a 28th Amendment to require competency testing for members of Congress, we could offer up a new 29th Amendment, known as the 3/5 Compromise for illegal immigrants. Problem solved. As I say at the end of each of my weekly sermons, if you and me put our pretty little heads together, we may still be able to figure out how to get this here US of A back on track. Thank you for listening.
Rusty Stubblefield is an unemployed certified auto mechanic and deacon at the Church of Our Lady of Original Sin. In today's podcast, after a 1-week hiatus to give his raspy vocal cords a rest, the Reverend Rusty Stubblefield is back by popular demand. Along with the one and only Electric Love Orchestra, Rusty will be performing 2 pieces composed by E. Dudex. The first is entitled MAGA Man. Stay tuned, and we'll be right back with this week's Conflated Conspiracy Theories.
What's the deal?
What do you care about, MAGA man? What do you care about?
What?
What do you care about, MAGA man? What do you care about? Do you care about civil rights? Do you care about human rights? What do you care about? What keeps you up at night? What do you care about, MAGA man? What do you care about? What do you care about, MAGA man? What do you care about? Now tell me, all you MAGA men, what do you really stand for? Do you stand for peace? Do you stand for love? Do you stand for country and God love?
Thank you, E. Dudex and the Electric Love Orchestra, for creating that masterpiece. available online at Bearberry Path Music. In our next segment of the podcast, we'll be sharing various homegrown conspiracy theories that have been developed by our staff of creative writers and novice journalists who believe first and foremost that at the Conflation Station, anything is possible. We invite you, our listeners, to share your own homegrown conspiracy theories by sending an email to bearberrypathmusic, one word, at gmail.com. That's bearberrypathmusic, one word, at gmail.com, and place the words conspiracy theory in the subject line. Today, we will be turning our attention to conflated conspiracy theories that focus on third-party politics in presidential elections and Jeffrey Epstein's infamous client list. Our lead story focuses on third-party politics in U.S. presidential elections. On the heels of the passage of Donald Trump's Big, Beautiful Bill Act, Elon Musk, the world's richest and most influential entrepreneur, vowed to initiate a third-party challenge to Republicans and Democrats in the 2028 presidential election. Fueled by the Congressional Budget Office's projection that Trump's bombastic bill will cost taxpayers an additional $2.4 trillion over the next 10 years, Musk, whose net worth is only a little over $400 billion, said, quote, "That pedophile Trump asked me to take a chainsaw to the budget, and now he's gone on a hog-wild spending spree. $2.4 trillion over 10 years? Shit, even I can't afford that." End quote. Musk, famous for coming up with creative names for his own companies, such as changing the company formerly known as Twitter to X, plans to call the new third party the American Party. When asked why he chose the name, Musk said, quote, "I was originally going to call the party the A Party, standing for America, but that seems so counterintuitive." End quote. Musk went on to say that while all letters of the alphabet were on the table when coming up with a name for his new political party, he favored the letter Z because it represented the Mexican literary hero Zorro. Musk said, quote, "Zorro wields a sword like I wield a chainsaw, and I think his black mask really makes him look cool. Trump has that MAGA hat thing going on. Maybe members of the A Party can all wear black masks. That would be rad." End quote. The only letter Musk ultimately ruled out entirely was the letter Q. Musk said, quote, "The letter Q is too restrictive because it must always be followed by the letter U." End quote. Since it was founded almost 250 years ago, the United States has been a two-party system. The Republican and Democratic parties have seen very few third-party challenges in elections, and even fewer third-party victories. No third-party candidate has won the presidency since 1856. Our team of novice researchers took a deep dive into finding out why this was the case. After poring through volumes of primary source documents maintained at the Library of Congress, they concluded that it is best explained by Founding Father James Madison in the Federalist Papers. Madison wrote, quote, "Political parties is like chocolate and vanilla. Any more than those two flavors would confuse the hell out of the voting public." End quote. So why, given these insurmountable odds, would Musk think a third-party challenge would have a snowball's chance in hell? Well, according to Musk, the odds are in his favor. Musk said, quote, "The American people are tired of binary choices. Just look at all of the different types of sexual orientations people choose these days. You've got your queers, you've got your gays, your trannies, people who claim they're non-binary, some people even calling themselves fluid. Today we live in an interstellar SpaceX generation. In our brave new world, post-pandemic society, most people have a whatever floats your boat philosophy." End quote. And it is with that whatever floats your boat attitude that Musk will search for a third-party candidate to run for president in 2028. The current frontrunner for the job is Alice Cooper. According to sources close to Musk, Alice is first on Musk's list due to the fact that Cooper ran for president back in 1972 as the Wild Party candidate. And although Cooper's bid was unsuccessful, his $1 Billion Babies album was a commercial success, and the single Elected reached number 26 on the charts in the United States during election week that year. Musk said that the album's title, $1 Billion Babies, served as an important inspiration for him early on in his quest to be the wealthiest human on the planet. Musk then distributed copies of the lyrics to the Alice Cooper song Elected and asked members of the press corps in attendance to sing the first verse along with him. It went like this: I'm top prime cut of meat. I'm your choice. I want to be elected. I'm your Yankee Doodle dandy in a gold Rolls Royce. I want to be elected. Kids want a savior. They don't need a fake. I want to be elected. We're all going to rock to the rules that I make. I want to be elected. When the singing concluded, Musk said, quote, now those are American values every man, woman, and child can stand behind. After the Musk interview ended, our team of novice reporters took a step back and asked the following question: why stop here? If America is so diverse, how can only 3 parties be enough to represent the interests of all Americans? Our reporters then pulled back the curtain and learned that efforts by political organizers from across the nation are underway to bring back parties such as the Whig Party, the Libertarian Party, the Tea Party, the Green Party. Coincidentally, there are already talks to merge the Green Party with the Tea Party to form the health and environmentally conscious Green Tea Party. There are also efforts to revive the Bull Moose Party established by Teddy Roosevelt. The Bull Moose Party's platform will take a completely opaque view of its relationship with the press, while at the same time creating sanctuary cities for migrants as part of the National Park Service. According to Bernie Sanders, independent senator from Vermont, quote, instead of the Bull Moose Party, they might as well just call it the Bullshit Party, because that's all politics is about anyway. Pure bullshit, end quote. And last but not least, talks are underway to sever the MAGA cult from the Republican Party, giving rise to 2 freestanding ideologies: a party ideology that stands for fiscal conservatism and law and order, and another dedicated to Donald Trump, authoritarianism, and anarchy. And now it's time to take a musical break and listen to another original composition by E. Dude X, performed by the Reverend Rusty Stubblefield and the inimitable Electric Love Orchestra. According to E. Dude X, the piece was inspired by President Trump's spineless handling of peace negotiations between Russia and the Ukraine. The song is entitled The Putin Dance. Stay tuned, and we'll be right back with another conflated conspiracy theory.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Don't believe a word he says, he's just an evil man. If you're seeking peace with him, he'll tell you go pound sand. He will not negotiate, he'll never take that chance. If you want to be his friend, you'll do the Putin dance. Putin still got Donald Trump involved in a bromance. Trump's so scared of Putin that he's pooping in his pants.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Do the Putin dance. Do the Putin dance. Do the Putin dance.
Thank you, boys and girls, and remember, the Electric Love Orchestra's complete catalog is available online at Bearberry Path Music. Over the past several weeks, the Jeffrey Epstein files have once again become a matter of public concern, particularly within Trump's MAGA base. President Trump seems to have had an on and off relationship with the file and his once very close friend, Jeffrey Epstein. There is currently a dispute over the manner in which Epstein met his demise. Was it suicide or was it murder? Perhaps he was consumed by his own evil soul. Apparently, natural causes did not enter into the conversation. At first, President Trump promised the nation that he would fully disclose the individual names that appear on Epstein's client list. But as of last week, according to DOJ Attorney General Pam Bondi, that same client list no longer exists. Bondi said, quote, "It appears that the list, if it ever did exist, has now vanished into thin air. We are looking to see if it might be stored somewhere in the cloud." End quote. The Epstein file issue continues to frustrate Trump and has caused a public rift between Attorney General Pam Bondi and second in command at the FBI and well-known podcaster Dan Bongino, who threatened to resign over the matter. Trump is standing firmly behind Bondi, and Bondi says, quote, "I stand firmly in front of President Trump," end quote. When asked why he supported Bondi, Trump said, quote, "Is her name Bondi? I thought it was bondage. It really doesn't matter. I just call her Blondie," end quote. At the time of this podcast, MAGA faithfuls are becoming more and more frustrated with Trump for his failure to make good on his promise to release the Epstein client list. However, unbeknownst to mainstream media outlets in the United States, the Conflation Station's team of novice investigative reporters have obtained portions of the infamous client list from an anonymous source within the FBI. While we still are in the process of verifying the authenticity of the list we received, we are now at liberty to disclose the names of several Hollywood A-listers and others who appear on that list. They are as follows: George Sanders, George C. Scott, George Hamilton, George Burns, Boy George, Orson Welles, Orson Bean, James Dean, Butterfly McQueen, the Marx Brothers, the Ritz Brothers, the Righteous Brothers, the Flying Burrito Brothers, the Smothers Brothers, Dr. Joyce Brothers, the Three Stooges, Gary Cooper, Gary Coleman, Ronald McDonald, Benny Thompson, Hunter Thompson, the Thompson Twins, Roy Rogers, Roger Mudd, the crew of the Jolly Roger, and last but not least, King Kong and Lassie. While we do not have the time in today's podcast to read the names of the hundreds of elected politicians whose names appear on the Epstein client list, we are at liberty to disclose the fact that the names of both former and current presidents appear numerous times on page 1. President Trump told members of the Washington Press Bureau, quotes, "I haven't seen the list, but I heard a rumor that it has twice as many pages as the big, beautiful bill I just signed." Continuing on, Trump said, quote, "Although I don't think I ever met him, Jeffrey was a very close friend of mine, and I would like to obliterate any notion that kiddie porn, prostitution, and sex trafficking of minors was something he was personally engaged in before he was committed suicide."
Well, we've reached our destination. We'll be back next week to pick you up for yet another journey to and from the Conflation Station.